It's Black Friday, and Dr. Bob is in the black.
Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
At this point of the day still, I hope.
I hope our listeners will rush out there and spend money as much as they can today, yes.
Well, Dr. Bob, President Trump gave us an early Christmas gift in terms of lots of headlines Wednesday and Thursday.
Indeed. He's criticizing the Ninth Circuit, and Roberts has stepped in to say, well, no, there aren't any Obama judges and Clinton judges and Bush judges, where they're just fine, upstanding judges doing the best they can. Well, first, let me say Trump is absolutely right about the Ninth Circuit. I mean, they're off the wall. And the Ninth Circuit, for our listeners, covers Montana, Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Arizona, and Hawaii and California. It's far and away the largest circuit among the 11 circuits, plus the District of Columbia. And it should be divided up. But because of the political ramifications of doing that, it's been very difficult for the Senate and Congress to divide it up. It has, I think, 28 judges at the circuit appellate court level. And Trump's absolutely right. They've been, 1 year, I think, 52 of their 54 decisions were overridden by the Supreme Court. So it's not unusual at all for them to be brought into tow by the Supreme Court. And, of course, what he's criticizing there, I think, is a lower federal district court out there. And these guys, I mean, they're off the wall because they've been appointed by a lot of liberal presidents, and you got liberal senators out there nominating them. And they're way at the margins, and Trump has a point. On the other hand, I don't think you gain a whole lot by going in there and attacking and criticizing the courts, because you end up with a situation where Supreme Court judges may feel that in order to establish their independence, they may go out of the way to rule against the president. So that's not a good idea. For example, Brian, this is probably before your time, but in 1904, when Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes was being considered for the Supreme Court, Teddy Roosevelt wrote a letter to somebody saying, well, he's right on this, he's right on that, and we can count on him for the antitrust decisions. And so the first antitrust decision that came before the court with Oliver Wendell Holmes on it, he voted against the administration. And a lot of people think he just did that just to let them know that, you know, I'm not one of your toadies. So that's the idea there, but Trump's absolutely right about his description about the Ninth Circuit. I mean, so it's a matter now of simply filling vacancies out there and getting some halfway reasonable judges there.
Now, Trump did a lot of talking on Thursday.
Did he?
Trump warned Thursday, and this is from Newsmax.com, there could be a government shutdown next month over security on the border with Mexico, suggesting he could hold up negotiations if no more money is provided for a wall. Quote, could there be a shutdown? There certainly could, and it would be about border security, of which the wall is a part of, Trump told reporters in Palm Beach, Florida.
Yeah, well, at this point, I don't think he cares much one way or another. The elections are over, and if he wants to shut it down, he can go ahead and do it. So Congress is going to have to make up their mind whether they can work something out here, and we'll just have to see. But he's made it pretty plain that he wants that wall built, and he's still in charge. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. The politics can get pretty intense now that you have the Democrats controlling the House of Representatives. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I must say, Brian, not to take us totally off the subject, which I'm about to do, I've been listening to BBC World News or whatever in the evenings because with all those British accents, they sound so much smarter than the rest of us, and I just get a kick out of.
Kevin used to say that.
Well, he's right.
He used to get a big kick out of watching the Parliament over there on TV.
Yeah, well, that's
the way they argue with each other.
Yeah, no, that's worth watching too. But at any rate, BBC World News and their clipped little British accents. And boy, are they a bunch of liberals. I mean, they're unbelievable. But Wednesday night, I think they're pushing this Khashoggi murder over in Turkey, and they think it's outrageous that Trump is not doing anything about it. So to have some background on it, they bring in some woman from the Washington Post. Well, you know the direction that's going to go. And it was amazing how out of touch these people are with what people think in America. Trump's point is, we got to work with the Saudis. They're creating a heck of a lot of jobs in this country. We've got to work with the Turks as well. But the idea that somehow we got to go charging in there and clamping down on all this, first of all, it's between the Turks and the Saudis. Where do we fit in this? And this reporter went on and on about the importance of human rights, and my goodness, this is a freedom of speech issue. And you think people out in the rest of the country care much about that one way or another? They don't. I mean,
Dr.
they're
Heineman,
so
can I
wrapped
stop?
up in these issues that are...
Okay, the Washington Post is understandably upset because a foreign correspondent who writes for them at the Washington Post was killed.
Yes,
but...
Well,
what does that do to national security in the U.S. if the U.S. goes after the Saudis?
Well, I think it's not that something is not happening there. First of all, the Saudis have said that they've indicted, I think, 11 of the people involved, and 5 of them have been indicted on capital crimes, which means they'll be beheaded if they are found guilty. And they don't normally indict these people without, in fact, finding them guilty. So the Saudis, somebody's going to be a scapegoat for the whole thing there. And the other side of it is, if I were this guy Gulen, but down in Pennsylvania, who Erdogan very badly wants brought back to Turkey, and we've been protecting him, I wouldn't be surprised. If I were he, I'd be finding someplace else to live pretty fast, because I think Trump is willing to give him up. And, of course, State Department and all the security forces are trying to protect him, but that doesn't make Trump any difference. If it makes Erdogan happy, he'll let this guy go. So we're basically, it's not that we're not doing something there, but the idea that you're going to somehow indict or charge the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, give me a break. This woman was, it was incredible. My goodness, free speech and America's position in the world. Trump saying, hey, we're talking about thousands and thousands of jobs. And second, it's really not our fight.
And third, if we get into another Middle East conflict, again, what does that do for the safety of the U.S. in terms of possible retribution?
The Turks have been very good allies of ours, as have the Saudis. So they're going to have to work that out. But the other thing is, you talk about a reporter. Who was that reporter that was captured by was it Al-Qaeda or the Taliban?
You talking about the guy that got his head cut off?
He was beheaded, and when the pictures came out, Obama went and played golf. He was out playing golf that day.
Well, there's the double standard there. I have a question about Rand Paul's response to all this.
Well, okay.
Okay, Rand Paul... I'm reading from Politico here. The White House statement that defended Saudi Arabia in the killing of Khashoggi was attributed to President Donald Trump, but all Rand Paul heard was John Bolton. Quote, it came out sounding like Bolton's voice to me, Rand Paul said in an interview. The problem is the president's instincts on these things are very good, but he's surrounded by people from a foreign policy swamp, and Bolton is the king of the swamp. Now, Rand Paul usually wants to stay out of Middle Eastern affairs. Is he contradicting himself here?
Well, I don't know what he wants the president to do. That's again, from the liberal side, Trump can't do anything right. So again, on C-SPAN the other night, I was watching a debate between David Fromm and Bannon. Took place up in Toronto. It really was quite interesting. Bannon is pretty clear on where he stands, but this guy Fromm kept saying, well, Trump didn't have anything to do with this mass killing. Trump didn't have anything to do with this violent demonstration, but he never said anything. He didn't say the right things. So being totally unrelated, that's not enough. And then when he does say something, then it's twisted another way. So in that sense, he really can't win.
Trump.
Yeah.
Can I continue my questioning on Rand Paul here? I've got another quote from him.
Well, all right.
The president, this is from Rand Paul, the president's statement looked like he was basically saying Saudi Arabia is bad, but Iran is worse. The lesser of two evils don't deserve our weapons, Paul said. I did talk to him last week, Rand Paul said, talking about the president, and I reiterated my position on this, that we shouldn't sell the Saudis arms and we shouldn't look at arms sales as job program sales.
Yeah, well, he's running contrary to the position Trump is taking. But the problem, and again, I don't have much use for either John Bolton or Rand Paul, so but the problem is, if we don't sell the arms to the Saudis, you think perhaps they can buy the arms from somewhere else? Come on. They're not going to go without. They need arms. They'll find someplace else to get them. I'm not a big fan of going around arming all these other countries, but again, in the world situation we're at now, we have to give some support to our allies. But there's no question the whole Khashoggi thing is very embarrassing. But you look at some of the other dictators and strong people that we've supported over the years. It's no worse, frankly, not as worse as some of the others that we've supported. So, nonetheless, I think there should be some retribution. I think, some of these people are going to end up paying a price for it. And now, in terms of foreign policy and such, let me make another point here, Brian, which you haven't been able to make here lately, and that, of course, is my view that Mike Pence will not be the VP candidate in 2020.
Whoa!
Yes. And you can see already around the edges, this is beginning to, some nibbling around the edges there. Mike Pence will be replaced by whom?
You tell me.
No, you're the big announcer. You're the mass media guy.
I hope it's not Bolton.
Oh, no.
Sarah Palin?
Close.
Well, not Rand Paul.
No, it won't be.
I'm just guessing.
I got that. Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley will be the VP candidate. And I don't think Trump has anything against Mike Pence. I think Mike Pence has been a very good soldier, a very good worker. But Trump is a businessman, and he's looking for re-election. And Nikki Haley would be a tremendous addition to the ticket.
Would Pence get another job in the administration?
Yeah. No, he would definitely get something pretty prestigious, and justifiably so. But they're talking about the women's vote, the educated women, all this sort of thing. Haley is, she's been governor of, South Carolina for 2 terms. She's been, her background in international affairs is tremendous right now. She's a very bright, articulate person. She's definitely the way Trump will go.
Dr. Bob, I'm guessing you didn't get this from a Google search.
I got this from just watching the way things are going here.
Your own keen observations.
Right. We'll see how keen it is, but I think that's definitely the way it's going to go. And I will say this, too, in terms of this last election that's going on about all these educated women, et cetera, which, is, I think, some truth to that. But I think the thing that really hurt the Republicans in the House race was health care. And screwing around with health care and making it more complicated and putting prior conditions in jeopardy. I think that hurt the Republicans a lot. So they're going to have to get that straightened out so they're not on the defensive on that. But on the other hand, in terms of, it looks like they'll lose 39 or 40 seats in the House, which isn't too far beyond what's a normal 26, 29, something like that. But the other side of it is, in the House of Representatives, the Republicans term limit their committee chairs. And so out of the 34 open seats, a good chunk of those were committee chairs that were going to have to step down. And so, they kind of shot themselves in the foot on that, making more open seats than there would be otherwise. But that's all right. I think this will all work itself out.
Dr. Bob Layton, getting to the break. Let's do that now. We'll be back in just a second, and we'll talk, among other things, about state politics.
Ooh.
Selecting a nursing home for a loved one isn't easy until you've discovered Hornell Gardens Nursing and Rehabilitation. Hornell Gardens delivers the highest level of care, compassion, and commitment with amenities and activities that will enrich body, mind, and spirit. It's a place that's close to home. Stop in for a tour of Hornell Gardens, located at 434 Monroe Avenue in Hornell, or to learn more, call 585-222-CARE or visit hurlbutcare.com.
It's going to stay cold and dry through today with a blend of clouds and sun. Looks like temperatures during this afternoon will be right around 35. Tonight, fair weather early on this evening, increasing clouds overnight, becoming breezy. Now temperatures initially back in the mid-20s and then rising a bit overnight. During the day on Saturday, we're cloudy and breezy and a bit milder, 42 to 46. Look for some scattered showers to arrive as well. Showers ending Saturday evening, mostly cloudy and above freezing, upper 30s overnight, and we should be well up in the 40s on Sunday. That's the pick of the weekend with a mix of clouds and sun. This is meteorologist Gary Best.
Back with Dr. Bob.
Hello there.
Okay, before I get to state, quick question. Former FBI Director James Comey put out a tweet. That's a post on Twitter for those of you who don't use Twitter. I think they know that from listening and watching TV. Anyways, Comey says he's gotten a subpoena from House Republicans. Best guess is whatever they want, he's not going to turn it over. That's the way it's been so far between the feds and Congress. What will the Republicans do if this continues?
I have no idea. They also have subpoenaed Loretta Lynch, the former Attorney General. And I think they want to know the relationship between Lynch and Comey, because I believe Lynch told Comey to back off on what he was doing. And this is after Loretta Lynch's tarmac get-together with former President Clinton down in L.A. or San Diego, was it? She was on a plane getting ready to fly out, and Bill Clinton just happened to be strolling around the tarmac there and went on the plane with her. And it's very clear that they didn't discuss anything in terms of policy. Are you kidding me? What was happening there, I don't know, but I think Republicans kind of like to get somebody under oath and get them testifying about it.
Moving on to New York State issues, the New York Times reported recently that both Governor Cuomo and New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio saw the potential Amazon deal as a winner. Now that it happened, they're facing a backlash.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much money how much of our money they've poured into this. I really can't comment to any great extent on that. We'll just have to see how it plays out. I will say this, though, in terms of New York State politics, we're in a ironic position, I believe, because I believe now we conservative Republicans are going to have to look to Governor Cuomo for any kind of reasonable policy.
To protect us from Ocasio-Cortez.
And the rest of the nutcases running loose. There's no checks.
That's kind of interesting because he moved to the left, but now he's going to be the stabilizing middle guy.
I think he has to. there's, again, at the national level, the Democrats got control of this House. All right, so you still got the Senate, you got the presidency, you got the courts, you got checks and balances, you got checks and balances in the House of Representatives. At the New York State level, right now, there's no checks and balances, period. The only checks you might run into would be the federal courts. Because I don't think the State Court of Appeals is going to be much of a limit. They might in some cases, but no. Cuomo's trying to run for president, and he's got these guys, now that they've got control of the state Senate, there's no limits on them at all. They can push all kinds of programs, and the one thing he's come out with right up front is said that universal health care or single-payer health care is just way too expensive for New York State. And he's right. And I'm not certain it's all that good a health care to start with. So he's going to have to, rein these guys in on some of these proposals. And it's kind of ironic that we're sitting there hoping he does.
State Senator John Flanagan, the Long Island Republican, he won the Senate Republican minority leadership post, defeating Senator Kathy Young. What does this mean for New York State, and what kind of role will Young have?
Well, I don't know. I haven't talked to any of the insiders on this yet. I think, first of all, Young had to do that. Somebody had to speak up for Western New York, and she'll probably pay a pretty heavy price in Albany for having done that. But nonetheless, she is in a position where she can speak her mind and make points, because I'm really very suspicious of the relationship between Flanagan and Cuomo. And in the past, they've worked together on things, and although Cuomo doesn't need Flanagan, frankly, for very much right now, I still am kind of suspicious of that relationship. So somebody has to speak up for Western New York and how we think about things out here. And Kathy will, I think, take that position and be a articulate spokesperson.
You say that Senator Kathy Young will have to pay a heavy price.
Yeah.
Maybe she has already, in terms of being stabbed in the back, because she supported Flanagan for State Senate Republican Majority Leader, and a lot of the upstate Republicans from the Rochester area were always after her for that. And then you have the situation where you told us last week that Flanagan took away Young's responsibility of running the state Senate's campaigns for the senators campaigning for re-election.
Yeah, that's what makes me a little suspicious.
And they lost when she wasn't running it.
That's what makes me very suspicious about where Flanagan's coming from. Now, talk about stab in the back. Senator Gallivan from the Erie County district runs east across Livingston County into Wayne County in Ontario, I think. I mean, Kathy went out of her way to squire him around and assist him when he ran for the state Senate. And he is one of the few, really the only, Western New York state senator to not to support her. And I mean, that's talk about a stab in the back. That's really pretty low.
I didn't understand that vote at all.
I don't know where he's coming from, whether there's something going on in Erie County that he felt he had to work with. I just don't know.
Okay. Getting a little late here, but I did have a quick question.
Well, work it in if you can, Brian.
Brian Higgins' opponent there won't, on the Democrat side, won't concede.
The Republican?
The Democrat.
Higgins is a Democrat.
Nice. I said Higgins. I said Higgins.
Collins. You mean Collins?
I was thinking Chris Collins.
Right.
His opponent won't concede.
Yeah, well.
And the Erie County Republican Election Commissioner released the results, and Collins won it by over 1,000 votes in Erie County.
Right. Yeah, well, I think it's over then. I mean, I guess the guy can. This does seem to be kind of a trend. Now, I will say I did get a write-in vote for Allegheny County Sheriff here in the last election, and I called Rick Whitney immediately after the results were in and conceded immediately. I told him he ran a good race, and I look forward to working with him. But these other guys, they don't want to concede,
Nate
man.
McMurray won't concede.
Yeah, well, and down in Georgia, a woman won't.
Stacey Abrams.
She won't concede, and I think in Florida they've all conceded, though, haven't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So at least you got to bring this stuff to a close. I know how they feel. You run a tough campaign, but I think for the most part, the elections are pretty fair across the board. And you just lose. That's the way it is. Same with McSally in Arizona, the Republican who lost, and it was pretty close. I mean, she could have carried it on and on and on. She said, no, that's it. What's the woman's name? Sienna, the Democrat that won there in Arizona.
That would be Cinema.
Cinema, yeah. And she's now the senator.
Kirsten Cinema.
Yeah. And I think there it wasn't so much Trump. I mean, probably it was Trump in the sense that his nasty comments about John McCain and such certainly didn't help the Republicans in that race. But in any case, they conceded. Now we got to move on. Give it another try. But it does seem to be a whole orientation right now on the part of the losing Democrats that somehow they were cheated out of the race. And by the way, I think another thing we should talk about, and we don't have time today, is this whole dog whistle talk that you're getting from the liberals. We want to throw that around perhaps our next time around. Give our listeners something to look forward to after they've spent
Speaking of dogs, your dog is out in the car, isn't it?
It's a little nippy out there for Bella this morning, and I have her sweater on, but I think we better be moving along here.
All right, we'll let you fly. Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
See you, bye.
All right.